Hi guys, I actually did see the advanced screening of Suicide Squad last night, and I finally just wanted to just get my thoughts out there because internet seems to be going crazy because of the fact that it's been getting like a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes now, and now everybody's assuming like, oh, it's going to be a crap movie and it's going to be terrible, especially after Batman v Superman. It's like, oh, DC sucks, Marvel's better, they can't get it right. I just feel like I just need to need. I was gonna wait maybe like a Thursday night to upload this, but I'm thinking I'm just gonna upload this now, and includes there'll be a non-spoiler portion and a spoiler portion of this. I'll put in annotations and whatnot just to help douse the flames a little bit. I went to see this movie, and I'm gonna say straight off the bat, I thought this movie was very well put together for the most part. Fantastic movie. I'm gonna say it's probably my favorite movie of the year. Basically the general premise is, there's Amanda Waller, who's a government agent played by Viola Davis from How to Get Away with Murder. She is basically this hard-ass, amoral government agent who's putting together a team called Task Force X. That's the official name of the team. Suicide Squad's the nickname of some of the worst criminals and some of the worst supervillains on the planet to act as this disposable black ops team that they send in to deal with threats, and basically they recruit the likes of Harley Quinn, Deadshot, among others, to be part of this team in exchange for getting reduced sentences off their prison time and also not setting off bombs. Bombs they put in their necks, like these little nanotech bombs, and they're basically sent to a city to take out this quote unquote terrorist threat. I won't go into the specifics of it. Basically, I thought first of all, I thought it was a pretty solid movie. There's a lot of humor. It was a great cast. There's a lot of chemistry between the actors. They really they really did feel like a squad. There was some grit to it. There's also enough humor to it that it made it feel fun and had the right balance of darkness and humor, because it's a pretty hard PG-13 movie, just bordering on R rating, and some characters were more fleshed out than others. Definitely the standout characters were, I have to say, Deadshot, who was the most fleshed out with having a daughter and basically being this deadly assassin on the planet. And is this the most immersive role that Will Smith has done? Not necessarily. It's kind of. It's sort of he does have that kind of that charisma is still there. You expect it from his most of his roles, but he's kind of more of the dead, Will Smith mannerisms that you expect from his acting. But he's kind of more the deadpan snarker, and which is sort of kind of this cold, still kind of this cold professionalism, which I guess you can personality traits you can expect considering he's the world's deadliest assassin. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn completely nailed it. She was just as good as I'd hoped she would be, and there are even times, and it made sense because I did find out secondhand that the inspiration for her performance was based on Arlene Sorkin's voice work from Batman the Animated Series, her version of Harley Quinn, but because her voice was more mousy and high pitched, that she decided to do she couldn't really use that voice, especially for moments where Harley had to be more serious and show a little bit more of her humanity. But there are all times where you almost kind of have almost a thin Long Island accent, and even there are moments where if you listen kind of closely, she does sound like the Batman the Animated Series version of Harley Quinn, and it was just it just felt like it was right off the page. And of course, Captain Boomerang is played by Jai Courtney. This is definitely his best movie performance, and I never watched Spartacus. I know everybody says like that he was like really good in that in defense of why he just seems to be. He gives like mediocre performances in all of his movies. Like I've seen him in the Divergent series films and Terminator Genesis, and I wasn't really impressed with him. Like this is probably like my favorite performance he's done. Um, and he's definitely a great comic relief character. He's very like kind of goofy and quirky, and is almost kind of this like it's just like basically like the comic relief in a sense. But actually, to be fair, like they all had their funny moments. Even Killer Croc had their moments of like throwing out one liners and funny moments. And I can't remember the actor's name, but he was a pretty like the makeup effects look great. He seems like a pretty like badass character. And another standout was El Diablo, who was basically like almost like the token good teammate, and probably had the most like probably the most sympathetic of the group and on the team. And even though Amanda Waller was calling the shots, the field leader was Rick Flag, who basically is like a reluctant leader, obviously a reluctant leader because of the fact that he doesn't want to. He rather send in soldiers to deal with this threat. Like he doesn't want to like deal with like supervillains and criminals, but he does have this like great dynamic with Deadshot, in which it's like where they're kind of like they have this like begrudging respect for one another. And it's also because and Will Smith's character has this kind of like pragmatic villainy about working with him, because of the fact that Waller says if anything happens to him, she'll kill the entire team. And also I also like Katana in this this version of Katana. I've seen the version on Arrow. I was impressed with the actress's performance in this movie, just because of the fact that I've seen her on her interview with Conan O'Brien when they did the whole Comic-Con doing the whole Comic-Con interview. And she seemed like she kind of very like sweet and innocent. Here she kind of seemed like this more hardened, battled warrior, and even had her moments of humanity, and just like I guess more like tear-jerking moments. But like I said, I was really considering it was her first movie, or I guess her first American movie, I think. Again, like the performances were pretty solid in this film, and also if you're wondering, about the Joker, he definitely makes the character Jared Leto makes the character his own. Like they do focus more on like the clown prince of crime aspect of the character, and kind of being this like well-dressed mob boss, and Harley Quinn being like essentially her queen, like basically the kingpin and queen of crime. And I mean, you get the idea, I hope. But I don't want to. If I had to compare it, it's not as good as Heath Ledger's Joker, but for what it is, and like the nuances, some of the nuances and the dynamic that he had with Harley Quinn, I was definitely appreciated it, and I was impressed with, they made some sort of tweaks with it that are slightly different from other incarnations of that relationship. But yeah, basically it was like a great ensemble piece. Like they kind of played off of one another. And I guess my biggest complaints is there was one particular. I mean, a lot of the reviewers keep saying about it was like choppy editing and it wasn't cohesive. And it's like, I wouldn't say like those are kind of harsh words. Like there was like one particular moment. I'll get into this. I'll have to explain them more in the spoiler portion, which they did leave out a specific detail in the beginning of the film that would make it kind of hard to follow and understand like certain people's motivations throughout the film. But and they didn't say that or explain that until maybe like, I don't know, like towards the end of the second act, beginning of the third act, which I thought was kind of a bizarre choice. And I just thought like if they just like mentioned that detail before and just done like a callback later on, I feel like it would have been easier to follow. and and aside from aside from that, there was, besides Jared Leto's performance, I felt like his best stuff probably got left on the cutting room floor because he didn't seem like as creepy as or as unpredictable as Heath Ledger's Joker, just because of the whole like mob boss thing. So it's like he did have like specific motivations, um, and yeah, like I said, like the story. Yeah, like I said, could have let that one detail in beforehand, and it just would have made the story easier to follow. But those are my biggest gripes I have with it. But again, this is going to be the part where I'm going to get into spoilers, get more in depth with it, and this is the part where I'll give you a minute to put in annotation, give you a minute to like jump ahead and get towards the end of the review. So, anyway, yeah, the other criticisms about the movie were like, oh, some characters weren't as fleshed out as others, and they had like thin characterizations, which is not entirely true. I mean, obviously it's an ensemble piece. You can only, dedicate so much time to certain characters, because like it's not like Captain America 3 or like the Avengers, where it's like there are movies like leading up. Everybody had a solo movie leading up to this, and it's like I don't know how long like critics are gonna like hold that against the movies. These movies, it's like it is what it is at this point, and I've kind of accepted it, and it's a little bit frustrating. But anyway, like I said, I like Katana. Like this was like a more faithful version of the comic book character, because she did have a sword where like her husband was already dead, unlike on Arrow, where it's like her husband was still alive on Arrow and was working for Ra's al Ghul, and was just basically too much of a pussy to like do the right thing, even when the opportunity kept presenting itself, and Katana was forced to kill him. But in this movie, the sword is magic. Her husband's already dead, and his soul's like trapped within the sword. And she talked to it, and she had this like really powerful moment, like before they went into the battle against the villain of this movie, which is Enchantress, who's the bottom played by Cara Delevingne, and her brother. Knowing that, oh, I'll be able to join you in the afterlife. And the thing that I was talking about before about the detail that wasn't clear is that, Enchantress was originally supposed to be a member of the Suicide Squad, and Amanda Waller was keeping, it was basically like a Jekyll and Hyde situation, where Enchantress was basically possessing the body of an archaeologist named June Moon, who after getting possessed by Enchantress and having this whole Jekyll and Hyde dynamic, Amanda Waller went back to the cave where they found her spirit, and they found this spirit not only found Enchantress's heart, but also a container, like, I don't want to say it's a jar, I would say it's a container, for lack of better terms, of the Enchantress's brother. But she would use Enchantress's heart and keep it in this like case, and keep it in a briefcase, and keep it in this case, in a manner kind of similar to Cutler Beckett did with Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean 3 as a means of controlling her. But the thing is that Enchantress manages to possess June Moon long enough to break her brother out of the container and set him free, and basically start wreaking havoc on Midway City, and also Rick Flag and June Moon are sent. Rick Flag is sent in to join June Moon and like send this explosive to try to kill Enchantress's brother. And Amanda Waller figures like she can still control Enchantress, but the brother is able to use his abilities to basically not be dependent on the heart, at least as dependent on. It was weird. It's like she was able. It's like she Amanda Waller basically couldn't destroy the heart or use it as a means of trying to like keep her in check anymore. And so she went from kind of this whole like grungy look you see in the trailers to having like this crown and this like this kind of skimpy gown, and they basically wanted to open up this portal that was basically supposed to like enslave, where it allows them to, I guess, like rebuild their kingdom and like just enslave humanity, and like people were being turned into these like kind of weird looking foot soldiers. And there was this like really like great scene where it was, I don't know if you maybe saw the clip on YouTube or not, where you see like the different fighting styles of the Suicide Squad members. Captain Boomerang, of course, using his boomerangs, and Harley Quinn kind of using these like gymnastic like moves, and Deadshot doing his thing to the point where it's like they just like mauled through that army, and it's like the whole theater just started applauding because once the whole action sequence was finished. And it was you kind of realize just how like twisted like Amanda Waller is, when to the fact that it's like she manipulated Rick Flag into having a relationship with June Moon as a way to kind of like control, basically just controlling him, or like using the other as leverage against the other, using one as leverage against the other. And even to the point where she was trapped. I mean, at first they said, Amanda Waller said they had to rescue somebody from, Midway City during the attack. At first you think she's talking about June Moon, but she's just talking about herself. She was trapped in the building when the portal in the sky opened up and all the madness started happening in Midway City, and she even like let's like clear all the hard drives, and it's like she starts to like she even shoots like some of the FBI agents to cover her tracks, which is shocking, and also doesn't, I guess also because of the fact that she doesn't want to be connected to the fact that she's she was kind of, I mean, it was basically her fault like why this was happening, and she didn't want to be blamed for any of this. So But anyway, and then they try to get to the top of the building to get extracted by this military helicopter, but because one of the guards from Belle Reeves, who was on the Joker's payroll, and Belle Reeves is one of like the I guess the prison where most of the Suicide Squad members were being kept imprisoned. He was able to hijack a military helicopter and like gun down like a lot of the soldiers that Rick Flag was working with, and get to Harley Quinn. But then Amanda Waller had the chopper like shot down, and then you think the Joker's dead, even though Harley didn't fell off the rope and was able to land before the chopper like went down in the explosion. And you realize, like, and this is the interesting thing about Harley Quinn and the Joker, like, they genuinely, like, care about one another. I mean, they kept the whole, like, dynamic of, Harley Quinn being the Joker's shrink and falling in love with him, with sort of like a Stockholm Syndrome factor kind of thrown in. And, like, there were, like, some nods to, we didn't, like, go, like, super deep in her origins. They kind of summed it up like enough that audiences can have an idea of like who these characters were. But there was not so like the Joker's origins. Like Harley Quinn also, as a declaration of her love for the Joker, like fell into the vat of acid at Ace Chemicals that turned the Joker, that helped make the Joker who he was. There's a flashback to that. But there wasn't like a whole like the Joker being the Chris Brown to Harley Quinn's Rihanna. Like they really cared for one another, and it's almost like, I guess you could say it was kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde dynamic, because he was like he made it like his prime mission, like get her out of prison and out of Amanda Waller's thumb, to the point where it's like he basically gunned down like a Wayne Tech facility, which built all the nanobombs that they put in the Suicide Squad members' necks, and was able to deactivate them remotely. So Waller couldn't have the upper hand. But basically, even though Waller couldn't kill any of them, they said that they still weren't going to get any time off their sentences. And there was even this point where Deadshot gets pissed when he finds the file from Rick Flag about how he has he was provided profiles on all the different members and how to, I guess how they're all like strong-armed into being into this team, and they're all having drinks at the bar, and Harley Quinn's lamenting with Diablo, who he's like the token good teammate, and he's basically the most reluctant member, one of the most reluctant members of the team, just because it's like he's never been able to control his powers, and it led to and he started off as a gangbanger who used that for business, but then he accidentally killed his whole family in a house fire just because he lost his temper and then control of his powers, because it's tied to his anger. So that's why there were moments where like Deadshot had to like push El Diablo's buttons just to kill some of the foot soldiers, and Harley Quinn was telling him to just admit to it and own it, because like they're all freaks, they're misfits. And it's the moment where I felt like the movie had a little bit of heart, and you realize there was almost like this kinship between the team, and almost even during that final battle when it came back to the whole like honor among thieves that Will Smith was talking about when they were having a toast and thinking that the mission was going to be a failure. They decided that they decided that if this person gonna like destroy the world, that it's like they at least want to be remembered as, if they were gonna die in this mission, at least wanted to die knowing that they actually did some good in the world, and not just like as criminals or just bad guys, and just at least get credit for that, if anything. And with Harley thinking that the Joker was dead, she just figured she had nothing better to do, and they just figured, you know what, you might as well just like die heroes if we're not gonna make it out of this. So they end up working together. There's a really cool moment where Diablo, I don't know much about El Diablo's background, but he kind of morphs into this like kind of like take this on this demonic form. I don't know, maybe that's like what his tattoos really are, just if he just made them himself, or just part of his like he's just born that way. I don't know, but he basically takes on almost this like demonic form where he starts attacking Enchantress's brother and is able to like hold them off long enough for them to use an explosive to kill not El Diablo, Enchantress's brother, to the point where it's like now she's vulnerable to the Heart's power, and she's originally kidnapped Amanda Waller and was using her reading her mind and using her to like destroy like military facilities around the world and take out satellites, but they were able to Deadshot was able to pull off this trick where he fired a gun at a backpack full of dynamite, and then also Rick Flag threw the Heart into the portal at the same time, and the Enchantress has lost her powers, and then Rick Flag was able to destroy what was left of the Heart to kill the Enchantress once for all and free June Moon. And if you're wondering about Slipknot, who's basically at the bottom, is basically towards the bottom next to the Enchantress. I mean, if anybody who assumed that he was going to be killed off early on, he is. He's basically kind of just there to basically be killed off, and for Amanda Waller to demonstrate that she was not fucking around with the nanotech bombs in their necks. But also there's, like I said, I liked, El Diablo, sacrificing himself for, help save the world, and, Harley Quinn and Deadshot were basically the standouts in this movie because they probably had the most, they were the most fleshed out. and especially everybody had these different moments where Enchantress tried to cast a spell on them, and they were like show them their heart's desire, which is basically Deadshot killing Batman for arresting him and taking him away from his daughter, Harley Quinn, living in this nice house with two kids, and the Joker and Harley Quinn, neither of them without their makeup, having this normal family, and El Diablo's family still being alive and whatnot. But like I said, this kind of gets back to, it kind of created this whole like bad versus evil dynamic, where it's just like it did humanize those characters especially, and it was why Amanda Waller wasn't willing to make the accommodations for the different criminals, especially Deadshot, where it's like he actually did get to see his daughter again, and who she loved him unconditionally in spite of the fact that she knew he was a hitman and knew what he did, and also like the ending where like Harley Quinn's in her cell, and she's drinking an espresso, reading a romance novel, and you almost hear, I don't remember the song, but it almost sounded like this lyric that says "kill the bat," and you saw like the wall blown out and like a SWAT team like coming in and like trying to break her out of the cell, and like you knew the Joker survived. You can see they were like hugging, and it was like getting ready to make their escape. And it was not only a nice hook for the Suicide Squad sequel, but also like the mid-credit scene when Bruce Wayne agrees to help cover up Amanda Waller's connection to the events of the film, as long as she helps Bruce find the other members of the Justice League to fight off Steppenwolf. But again, like I said, it was a very well crafted movie. Like I said, great acting, great chemistry among the cast. Like pretty good story. It was a pretty good story, pretty good special effects. I mean, even the soundtrack. I mean, I saw this screening in 3D, and I know it's not cheap to see, but if you do have the money to see the 3D, I would definitely recommend it. And I mean, even the soundtrack was great. I think I'm even gonna go on iTunes and buy the thing. So that's my thoughts on Suicide Squad. I definitely give it a 9 out of 10. It's hands down one of my favorite movies of the year. It is without a doubt like the best entry in the DC Extended Universe franchise, and I definitely recommend you go out and see it. Go out and see it. Ignore the critics. I mean, give the movie a chance. Go and form your own opinions on it. So, what do you guys think of the movie? Have you seen it in early screenings? Have you seen it Have you seen it around the time this video has been uploaded? I mean, do you still want to see it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.